Hello and welcome to this week's edition of The Author's Eye with me, your host, Derek M. Cartwright. Now, today I've got the author Janine L. Connor and the author Richard Fuller with me. So, hello, guys.
Hello.
And hello.
Right. So, what I thought we might do this week is it's really a follow-on from one that we did last week, which is around characters and your favorite characters and all that sort of stuff, and why a particular character would resonate with you, and what is it about the author that they've, written, how they've basically sold that character to you. So, without further ado, Richard, do you want to make a start on that for us?
Yeah, I think I'll happy kick off. I mean, I think my current favourite character, and is not new, and I'm sure most people have heard of him, is Jack Reacher.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
yeah, of course.
which I think he's the sort of guy that we'd all like to be, in a way. Big, fearless, tough, whatever, and leading a sort of life that he chooses without any pressures, and but somehow finds himself in scrapes. And whilst he's not averse to squashing the odd fly or the bad guy, he's always very doing it all for the right reasons. And I think that's really good. I think the way he was introduced in the first book was really well done by Lee Child. I think it's the brilliant introduction to it, where we find this guy sitting in a diner, having walked into town from 10 miles away on a motorway interchange. And the next thing you see is these police cars piling into the diner, and he's sitting there going, I think they're for me because I'm the only one here who's not local.
Yeah,
And he's arrested for murder there
yeah,
and then, in the first page, basically. And I think that really does that. And we see his character at that point. This to shows his character. He knows he's going to be arrested, and he puts his hands on the table so that nobody can see him, and the police can see where they are. And he puts a $20 note out of his wallet and puts that under his coffee cup to pay for the food that he's just eaten.
yeah.
And I think that shows the sort of character he is.
Yeah, that says a lot about his character, actually. Actions speak louder than words.
Hmm. It's that save the cat thing, isn't it? You show your character having a redeeming features as well as all the other good stuff right at the beginning.
I think my favourite character, and I'm going way back to the classics, is Emma by Jane Austen. And I think Jane Austen herself wrote that she thinks she's written a character that only she will like, because she is quite unlikable, cringeworthy at times, and yet you're still rooting for her. You still want her to do well. You want the happy ending for her, but she's quite unpleasant to her friends, and just her attitude. And yeah, she's not a very nice person. She changes, and she's quite selfish. And I quite like the fact that she's a character that a lot of people won't like. I've written an unpopular character who I still want people to root for. So I think maybe it was inspiration. I thought, that's a character, like one of my characters, that no one's really going to like, but you still want her to come through in the end. So I think it was quite genius of Jane Austen, and probably quite brave in the day. But yeah, I think she's one of my favourite characters.
It's interesting because that kind of I've gone one of my ones is Long John Silver from Treasure Island. Partly because it was the first book I ever bought, so but I like the fact that you've got this complex character. He's contradictory in nature. So he's quite unpleasant, really. He's a pirate, but he's got charisma. He's got a charm about him, and he has, when Jim Hawkins comes along, he's like almost like a father figure to him and takes him under his wing. And yet, that when it comes to self-preservation, he'll do whatever, as in Long John Silver would do whatever. He'll ship him. He'll do whatever to survive. And I see. I like that in a character in a way because I like the duality of a character rather than it being quite a flat character. You know, something that you can
Mm.
sort of rail against, but you can also go, all right, okay. I find it interesting because within that book itself, you know, obviously it's a story about the Jim Hawkins, and he has this like begrudging respect, and it's interesting because that is actually almost the theme of the book itself. You know, that's it's not just an individual's perspective; it's the whole book in a way about how someone gets that respect. I don't know. I just for me, I quite like it because he's a clever, conniving little character. Um, and
Sounds
it's
a
not
bit like
quite. It's
Jack
not
Sparrow.
it's not quite like a I was going to say somebody like a Del Boy who's a bit of a because there is a dark side to this person. This Del Boy is just bumbling in a way, and in
Mm,
some ways Jack Sparrow is a bit bumbling and a bit
yeah, yeah.
Long John
Sounds
Silver,
like
he'll stab you in the back. He's
Keith Richards has got a lot to answer for, hasn't he? Being having had Jack Sparrow sort of modelled on him, and now you're saying the this guy, this other pirate. I mean, it's yeah.
I mean, the interesting thing about that, though, is when Long John Silver was portrayed by Robert. Oh, the name escapes me. But when he was first portrayed, see, everybody does Long John Silver
Mm.
in, it's now a typical voice, isn't it? Noir and all that, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
I don't know, it's a reflection, I think, of that portrayal of that character.
yeah. I
That's now
thought
become pop
mm.
culture almost.
I thought it was very interesting when you were talking about taking Jack Hawkins under his wing. I thought you meant the parrot's wing, didn't you?
Yeah. Tish boom and all
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
So come
I mean,
on, what give us another one then,
well,
Richard.
I was just going to say, just on Jack Reacher again, and it's interesting, isn't it? You reference movies there and characters playing him, and they did two films with Tom Cruise playing
Yeah, yeah.
Jack Reacher, and that just for me was, as a great fan of the series and owning every one of the books in the series, to see Tom Cruise just is not Jack
No.
Reacher. He might be very good, he might have been a great fighter, all that sort of things, but he wasn't Jack Reacher. And if anybody's watched the Amazon Prime series with the guy whose name I can't escapes me, but he is the guy playing him in the Amazon Prime series is the right size for Jack
Yeah.
Reacher,
He hasn't got the
and
blonde
he's
hair though.
much more realistic and he's much more believable. And
I think that
but
especially when you've got visual descriptions in the book of what somebody's like, which you're going to find out
Mm.
by, halfway through the book, if not to start with. And then you see an actor who does not look like that at all.
Yeah.
It's, if you haven't read the book, it's fine. If you've read the book, then that's a bit disconcerting, isn't it? You're
mm,
expecting this big, tall guy and you get Tom Cruise, however an amazing actor he is, it's just a disappointment.
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, come on then, Richard. Next.
Next, I'm going to go a bit off the wall here. Ian Rankin wrote a lot of well-known books. He also wrote under the name Jack Harvey. And when he was writing a Jack Harvey, he wrote a few standalone sort of thrillers. And one of them is called Blood Hunt. And I think I really enjoy the book, read it several times. And it features a guy called Gordon Reeve, who is ex-SAS, drummed out of the service because he had an anger management problem. And he runs a sort of outward bound school up in Scotland somewhere. And so life is plodding along by, and then his brother is a journalist, and he suddenly hears that his brother has committed suicide. Brother lives in America, he's committed suicide over in America. So Gordon goes over there to sort of do what you've got to do to get the body and all the sort of usual stuff. And he starts making a few inquiries and discovers that how come he committed suicide when he was inside a car that was locked from the outside and things like this. And there's questions that don't come up, and he starts asking questions. And his brother was investigating a huge biopharmacy company about drug results and things as a journalist. And so Gordon Reeve gets dragged into this and starts finding there's a lot of other nasty people wanting to shut down this line of inquiry. And so
Yeah.
his brother was killed, not suicide. And it's interesting how he's got the sort of these skills from the SAS, but with his anger management issues, he keeps making it harder for himself because he gets into situations where his temper takes over and he makes mistakes and he gets himself into all sorts of scrapes. And it feels like a sort of reflection of most people that you're not perfect. You know, you're not a perfect hero at all. You're not a perfect person. You have problems. You get annoyed. You know, things don't go right. You thump the table or you thump
Yeah.
somebody else, and I like that about him. He's not a perfect character, but in the end, he manages to get the job done and get to the bottom of it and solve it all. And it's a great read. That was Blood Hunt by Ian Rankin or Jack Harvey.
Right, cool. I'm not familiar with that one, but it sounds interesting. So, Janine, what about yourself? Have you got another?
Jump in.
Oh, we've got Sally here.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm
Hello,
calling
Sally.
in from the bar called the Clays in Moorgate in London.
All right.
And I'm not going to stay on very long because there's a cocktail waiting for me over there.
Oh,
But I thought I'd say hello because
If you're only going to be with us for a few minutes, Sally, then what's your favourite character from literature and why?
okay. Well, my favourite character is Samwise Gamgee because he helped Frodo up to Mount Doom, but he actually returned home, and his only thing was he liked food and he liked to grow things. I mean, I think in all the world there is no greater character than somebody who sets themselves to help somebody else and actually wins out. And he became the mayor of Hobbiton at the end as well. So, you know, my life ambitions in one hobbit, really. So that's my favourite character. Well, I'm going to say goodbye to you all. It's lovely dropping in.
Yeah.
But bye, Richard. Bye,
Bye.
Janine. Bye.
Bye,
nice to
Sally.
see
Yeah.
you. Bye.
Bye.
And I'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Gosh, our roving reporter from London there, dropping in.
Yeah. Okay. So Janine, you were saying?
Okay, I'm sticking with Jane Austen. Lizzie Bennet, Pride and Prejudice.
Oh,
Lizzie
yes.
Bennet,
Yes.
I just admire her. I admire her strength. I mean, she had a very good offer of marriage, and she turned it down for her principles. And I think that's a strong woman. Um, so I just think she's amazing, and also, you know, how she continued her sort of development of herself and became very humble and realized that actually she had misjudged someone, she had made a mistake, and it all came right for her in the end. But I just think she's a strong character, highly principled, and yeah, she just stands out to me.
And also for the time, that was just unprecedented, wasn't it? At that time to have such a strong female
Yeah,
character.
yeah, and you know, to receive a marriage offer that she did initially, Mr. Darcy, you know, most people would have snapped that up regardless of their feelings for him. But you know, she stuck to her principles, and it all came through in the end. So she did the right thing. But she also, I think, was also humbled, and she realised the mistakes she'd made in judgment. And yeah, I think she's just a
Mm.
great character. And as you say again, ahead of her time, really.
Well, I'm going to now move you on to a animal character. So, one of my favorite characters is Napoleon from Animal Farm. So, for those of you who aren't aware, Napoleon is a pig, and he is an ideologist, real in favor of this animalism. This is where they take over the farm. They're going to run it, and you know they've got he, along with the others, define the seven commandments of animalism, and there's along the lines of, if it goes on two legs, it's an enemy. If it goes on four legs or has wings, it's a friend. No animal shall wear clothes. No animal shall sleep in a bed. No animal shall drink alcohol. No animal shall kill another animal, and all animals are equal. So there you go. So that's what it's all about. And he's there, and he's rah, 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 and running that flag up the hill and all that sort of stuff. But throughout the course you of that novel, you get him, that character, as it were, starts to unravel. There's a paranoia associated with him, and he's got this self-importance about himself. Oh, I'm a founding pig, as it were, and he's also unable to accept that he's wrong. I'm not going to say that there's parallels to certain world leaders at the minute, but you could draw those parallels if you so desired. I think for me, what's interesting is that it's one of these that ultimately, as the novel progresses, he proves himself to be just as corrupt as the humans that went before. He begins to walk on two legs. He will wear clothes and strut around the farm. He even renames the farm from, oh, I'm testing myself now. Animal Farm was renamed to Manor Farm, I think it was.
I
But
haven't read it,
and then he gets to the point where he's even carrying a whip, and all this sort of stuff. So it's I think, such a clever. I mean, it's a satire. He's satirizing communism, basically, at the time, with not Lenin. Oh yeah, Lenin. I think it was Lenin he was satirizing. But yeah, but as a character, I just thought it was really interesting to me as a younger person reading it, thinking, oh, it's an animal. Oh, he's writing about animals. It's all cozy and all the rest of it. Actually, the when you realize and when you get it, it's such a powerful piece of writing. Um, and it's just wrapped up in this kind of, oh, they're all animals. But of course, it's not like that at all.
yeah. There's a
Anyway,
big
so that
hidden meaning.
was I just think it's such a clever piece of writing to develop that character, to take something that you think is going to be, you know, I don't know, cozy or something, and then just make them into this quite an ogre kind of uh, thing, person, animal, whatever.
I haven't read that, but I'm sure that's very cleverly done by the author. That's such a
Yeah,
good
it's
read.
it's definitely worth a read if ever you get it's. I think it's. I'm not one for more literary works. I quite like, and I'll come on to a character in a minute, that I quite like my comic fantasy and all the rest of it. But I just think, in terms of a character that's sort of like a memorable character, I think something like Napoleon is quite a memorable.
It's quite interesting you mentioned that because I started reading Animal Farm again a few weeks back,
Oh yeah,
and I'm probably about a quarter of the way through it. Haven't finished it 'cause I got sidetracked by other things, but it's
yeah,
still sitting there waiting to be read. And yes, it's a parable, isn't it?
yeah,
Really,
yeah,
and a parody of human society and all
yeah,
these wonderful leaders we have in the
yeah.
world.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Mm, yeah.
So, have you got another one for us then, Richard?
I have indeed. Actually, I'm just going to stick with the animal theme
Okay,
because
cool.
my third character that I would say I really enjoyed was a minor character in the story, and it's a book called Harry's Mad by Roald Dahl. And it's about a little boy, Harry, and his mum and dad, primarily, and his family. But an uncle in America dies, and he leaves them a bequest. And the bequest for Harry is a parrot called Madison, which is where we get Harry's Mad from.
Right.
And this parrot is shipped back over from the States to go and live with them in England. And of course, it's a talking parrot. But it's not just a talking parrot because the uncle was a professor of linguistics at Harvard. So this parrot is a fully thinking, functional, talking, intelligent being. And integrates himself totally into the family life and does all sorts of things. He rings the police up when the family have gone away and the house is being burgled. He rings the police up and tells them there's burglars in the place and things like this. But this bird, Harry Madison, the character, the bird, is so well drawn. He's very dry sense of humour,
Right.
and the whole book has got this lovely vein of humour running through it with this talking parrot. So it's very gentle and it's very nice and it's a lovely little story. And I remember we did this, heard it first on an audio cassette in the car driving through France with the kids in the back, and the whole family were just riveted by listening to this audio book of Harry's Mad. And it's a really nice tale for, especially if you've got sort of kids who are old enough, who are into the sort of Roald Dahl-ish type books and that
So
sort of
is it the way that Roald Dahl has written the character that stands out? Is it?
It's a very cleverly worked character,
right.
and it's a very cleverly plotted story, and so the two go together, and I think
right.
it just works really well. So yeah, he's a great character, minor character. He's not, but I suppose he's 50-50 with the boy in the story. But,
yeah.
And there's some great humour in it. The parrot arrives at the family home and they take the cover off and they realise it's a parrot. And his father
it's not dead then.
Sorry?
It's not dead then. It's not dead.
No, he's not a dead parrot, not at all. But, father says, oh, he must be tired. He's flown all the way from America. And no, he's travelled on an aeroplane. So it's the sort of way you can play with those elements of it. So it's a really nice, gentle story, for a heartwarming story, that one, with a lovely character in it. This bird that's very clever and very intelligent and very sharp observer of human life.
Excellent. So are we, Janine, have you got another Jane Austen for us? Are you going to
Well, I was very bad at my homework and I didn't really have a third, but I will say, sticking with the Jane Austen, Harriet, also in Emma, is such a sweet character and she's just so eager to please and impressionable that I really liked her character. But if you really are forcing me to think of an animal one...
Well, no, it doesn't have to be an animal one.
It doesn't, but but I was thinking when I'm sat here, which animal? I'm going to say Jungle Book, and it's got to be. I'm going to say Baloo. Was it Baloo, his name? Because another character and the only reason is he makes me smile. So yeah,
is that the King of the Swingers, Jobby?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was the monkey, wasn't it? That did the King. Which every time I hear that song again, I'm smiling. But Baloo was a really cute, great character, quite dry and. Words fail me how to describe him, but just really cool and makes me smile.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting that when you have a great character, the character almost leaps off the page at you, doesn't it? That's how in a way it becomes more memorable, because it's just like you have your vision there in front of you of that character. It's like you don't have to work at it. It's there. The author's given you everything that you need.
But that's good writing, isn't it?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Well, I've got one more, and I have to unfortunately talk about a Terry Pratchett and Discworld kind of guy, because that's the kind of guy I am. So, one of his characters that pops up through many of the books is a guy called Sam Vimes. Now, Vimes is the commander of the City Watch, the police, whatever you want to call it, within the Discworld novels. Now, he starts off he's a drunk, he's incredibly poor background, he's got nothing going for him. And him and a ragtag bunch of werewolves, trolls, all kinds of different, basically, these are the lowest of the low as far as Discworld society is concerned, and they've all come together in the City Watch, and he's the commander of this ragtag bunch of people. And I love him because of the one simple fact: he cares. He cares about the people that he's working with. So, and this is in a way is one of my things going back to my old business world. I have a real problem with management as such. I like the sense of being a leader. We need leaders. Military people, you have leaders. You don't have managers. And Sam Vimes is a leader. He gets out there. He'll go over the first one over the top of the trenches and all that kind of stuff, and people go with him, and it's successful. Now there are, it's a bit absurd at times because he wins fights he should never win and all this kind of stuff. But it's all about his heart and that caring thing, and you follow his journey throughout the series of books where he starts off, as I say, this poor drunk, and he marries well, and he becomes the first Duke of Ankh and all this sort of stuff, and yet you've still got this I suppose dichotomy within him, an internal dialogue within him, which you as the reader, he reveals to the reader, which is the fact that there are times he's a grump, he's a grouch, but somehow that makes him a very relatable character.
And isn't that
I
true?
think it's just something about him that, for me, I don't model myself on him by any stretch of the imagination, but I do share the grumpy, grouchy kind of vibe. And and I just like the fact, and also the other thing I like about him, he desperately, desperately wants the evil people to get their comeuppance, but he also knows he's a policeman and he has to follow the rules. But yeah,
But isn't that true of any great character, that you have to root for them?
absolutely, yeah,
The author's got to get you on side, rooting for that character, foibles and all. I mean, Sherlock Holmes was by no means perfect with his drug use and
yeah,
whatever, but we all want him to win. We all want him to succeed, and all of these great characters in literature all have their issues, but they all ultimately they're doing it for all the right reasons, if not necessarily in the best way possible. And that's what you want the reader rooting for the character and hook them on side. If you've got the reader on side, then the story will flow, and you'll the story will succeed.
Maybe that's the common theme to all the people that we've talked about tonight, is that they've got heart. Even if it's not always apparent at first. Certainly with Jack Reacher, this sounds like quite a dangerous man, and is he likable? But he leaves that note. He leaves that $20 note. And some of the characters I've talked about, they're not instantly likable. But in the end, you can see that they've got a good heart, and that's what comes through. Maybe, regardless of what role they're playing, in the book or the film, whatever, it's the heart that you latch onto. I mean, even Breaking Bad, that my kids maybe watch, and I'm thinking, this is just not for me. I don't really like anything about drugs and whatever. And I end up rooting for this drug dealer who's making crystal meth, and which is obviously not a good thing. But, for the reasons why he's doing it and the sort of characters, you end up rooting for him. And that it's a sign of good writing, isn't it?
It's that relatability, isn't it, in the character? And I think that's the key thing. So any writers who are listening to this, the top takeaway really is to try and get your characters or make them relatable to your reader.
And even you brought up Napoleon in Animal Farm. Now he's not really a nice character. He starts off with good intentions, but ultimately he succumbs to the privileges of leadership and wanting all the nice things and denying the others, his fellow countrymen, those things so that he can have them. But somehow you end up rooting for him, and
well, I think partly because you can see it. You can see that in those qualities, as if that's the right word, in other people. Which is
we all probably think that there, for the grace of God, it's probably us as well. If we were in that position, would we be sort of saying, "Well, I'll have the Rolls Royce and I'll have the private jet," and
Yeah. Anyway, on that bombshell, are we going to leave it there for this week?
Okay.
So it's a good night from me.
That's a good night from me.
And it's good night from them.
Yeah, well done.